what would you say? I know you said Titanic.
Mm-hmm.
So would you, if you had to say two other conspiracy theories, you don't have to go into detail about them, but
Yeah.
what's two other of your top three? We'll say Titanic's one of the top three.
Yeah, right. I would say in terms of plausibility, Titanic's number one. Titanic Olympic, that's number one. I guess that's a definitive one. Like, do I know the actual answer? No, but I do not 100% do not definitively believe the official story. I don't think that Lee Harvey Oswald killed Kennedy.
We're going to talk about that one.
I am 100% not into the. I just don't believe it. There's been too
I
much,
agree with that.
Yeah, there's been too much proof that goes into where they tested, that specific Carcano rifle, where they tested from the distance with a current sniper and an expert marksman, and he couldn't get the gun loaded and unloaded that quick to chamber another round into it. It just, the time frame is implausible. The trajectory of like how Kennedy's head went forwards and then blasted whenever he finally is done, you don't get that motion. And the trajectory of the bullet that ended up in that governor or congressman or whatever he was, governor, ended up in his thigh and his wrist. So there's a shot that comes from behind Kennedy, but the thing that I think the official story tells you, the one that went through Kennedy's neck and down, is what they say is the bullet that ended up.
The magic bullet theory. Yeah.
So they think that's what ended up in the governor. Dude, I will tell you, and man, I'm just out to get the fucking FBI all on my ass with this.
Go ahead. Go with it.
I 100% would say I believe Johnson had something to do with Kennedy being assassinated.
I've heard of that.
100%.
I've heard of. To be honest, I don't have a definite. This is my opinion of it.
Yeah,
I just can't. I don't have one. We grew up in school and saying, "Oh, Lee Harvey Oswald." Yes, could he have done that? Yeah, he could have. Mm-hmm. I think he was trained enough to do it. Yes, but with all it just doesn't add up.
No,
it doesn't add up. Was Lee Harvey Oswald? Was he into some other shit? Yes, he was.
No, for sure.
He was in with the Russians. Of course, he lived in Russia for an ample amount of time. He was in the Marines. So, yes, he was weapon trained.
Yep.
But to say that he did it alone, no. He was the fall guy. Why? And that's where this conspiracy theory takes off, is he never had his day in court.
Yeah, why did Jack Ruby kill him?
There's where the conspiracy theory takes off.
Yeah.
Is because of that. If Lee Harvey Oswald is able to come out and say, "Hey, I didn't do this," that will throw doubt on him.
Mm-hmm.
That the American people at that time would have been like, "Nah, maybe he didn't."
Right.
Well, I feel like at that time they would have just said, "Hey, you're the guy anyway."
Yeah, they would have taken anybody.
Yeah, they would take anybody. But it's really tough. It could have been the Russians. Mm-hmm. It could have been Lee Harvey Oswald. I've heard about the CIA.
Cubans.
I've heard about Johnson, the Cubans. That's 5 different individual groups that this could have been.
Yep.
It's really hard to say, and it's so. And I would love to find that answer. I really would.
Yeah.
If I could have any type of book of secrets of America, I want that one. Just to.
That's a good one. And the crazy thing too, man, is like, even if, like you said, even if you subscribe to the theory that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone and killed the president by himself with an old shitty gun that just probably couldn't even kill a deer that far. Like, even if you subscribe to that theory, how do you explain the rest of it? How do you explain Kennedy's brain turning up missing after his autopsy? How do you explain them giving up the body to be cremated prior to Jackie Kennedy having any say in the matter? She didn't get to say what happened with his body. It was already done. Then how do you explain why was the swearing in of Lyndon Johnson so rushed that it had to be done on Air Force One, on the spot, in front of Jackie. Why did she need to be there for him to be sworn in? He requested, like specifically requested Jackie Kennedy to be there, still covered in blood, by the way, still covered in her husband's blood, to watch him be sworn in on Air Force One. Now, obviously, we didn't need the president to be sworn, or the vice president, rather, to be sworn in on the spot. It could have been done while they were in Washington after this.
Yeah.
But why did it have to be done there? Hence the reason I think Johnson, because Johnson hated Kennedy. Johnson thought Kennedy talked down at him. Johnson thought that Kennedy thought that he was smarter than what he was. And there's a mistress of Johnson's that has been on recording as well as written into a book that said that Johnson said prior to Kennedy being assassinated that, I'm paraphrasing, but she said that he told her prior to it happening, a couple of days before, maybe the day before, something, that we'll see if those Kennedys make fun of me again.
Mm.
Something to that effect was said, right? Johnson has ties to the mafia also.
Oh, real quick. You said something about the mafia. There's number 6 for Kennedy. He had I guess his dad had dealings with the mafia.
Oh,
the mafia apparently helped him get elected.
Yeah,
that was number 6. I didn't want to cut you off there, but that was number 6.
No, and that's a very prime example. That's why I said of anytime you got to look into something like an assassination, or you look into a political killing or something, anything like that. The first rule of whether you want to call it forensics, or the first rule of you want to call it investigation, is a suspect. The chief amongst them should be who stands to gain and who stands to benefit the most from this person dying. Well, in this case, it's Johnson. Johnson becomes the president if Kennedy's dead.
Yeah.
So to me, it's a no-brainer that you should immediately be looking into being like, okay, what is there substantial evidence and substantial credence to Johnson's, hatred of the Kennedys? Now, and that's the funny thing, man. Mm-hmm. It's like, do I think the Kennedys are great people? Fuck no. I don't think that John Kennedy was a good dude. He did some shitty stuff. Robert Kennedy did some shitty stuff. Ted Kennedy did all sorts of shitty stuff. I mean, for God's sake, he let that woman drown in the lake after the car crashed and got out.
I think I remember hearing about that. I don't. Of course, we weren't alive, but I remember hearing something.
But that's what I'm talking about. Like, do you know the amount of shady dealings that the Kennedys in general have had their hands in over the course of American history? Not just, the Kennedys like John Kennedy and Robert Kennedy that we would know from school and history, and Ted Kennedy from being a senator while we've been alive, but like his whole lineage, the amount of shit that the Kennedys have been involved in that are 100% true things that you can find, not rumor and hearsay and whatnot, but things that you can 100% substantiate to be true. The amount of things that they've had their hands tied into, it's no wonder somebody wanted them dead.
Yeah, that's... Man, Kennedy, you would not have voted for Kennedy if you were alive back then?
No, and I don't want it to be said that way either, because I get misconstrued there. Kennedy would have been the last, what I think, running as, in his case, a Democrat.
Yeah.
One of the last candidates that ever ran that truly could be a moderate, that had Republican leaning, that had Democrat leaning, but was a good middle of the road candidate to run for president. No, I think that is the case in his case. I would have liked to have seen where his presidency would have ended up, because he only went 61 to 63.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen what he could have done. But like I said, him in general, I would say, you said the top 3, Titanic being 1, Kennedy being 2nd, but Kennedy is tied to my 3rd also, and that's Marilyn Monroe didn't OD. Marilyn Monroe was killed.
You know what? I don't want it to seem like we're agreeing on everything, but I I've heard this one before, and I agree with that. I don't think that Marilyn Monroe, killed or OD'd or whatever. I think that was. I think she talked too much. I think they were like, "Hey, this girl knows too much. Let me rephrase that. This girl knows too much.
Yeah,
we need to do something about this." And to that point too, about Kennedy. Kennedy was the last completely sane Democrat.
I agree.
As in a, hey, we're going to stick to our values. Moderate. Hey,
try to do both sides.
Yeah, we're going to try to do both sides. I've become a big fan of Kennedy the last couple of years. I think what he was talking about, secret societies, if you ever look into that kind of stuff, I think he was really hitting the head on it. And there is a Muse song. I don't know if you listen to them or not. It was off their album back in 2015. There's a song called JFK.
Okay.
I can't remember what speech it was from. It was from some newspapers in Boston. I don't know what it was. But listen to that.
Yeah.
And what he talks about in there. Let me see if I can pull it up, just the lyrics of it. Yeah. I know it's like different speeches tied into one. But listening to that is. Hold on, let me find it here. But I think Kennedy. Like you said, you don't know what would have happened with him.
Right.
What would have happened with Vietnam? Vietnam is one of the biggest things. And have you ever seen 11/22/63?
Oh, yeah, I read it. Yeah, I read it.
You read it, watched it probably.
Yeah.
That right there is the main reason why he went back, why they went back in time. That right there was Vietnam. Would he have done differently to Vietnam? We don't know. It's one of I don't know what your opinion on that is. When I looked this up, I have no idea. I don't know,
man, because the way he handled the Bay of Pigs is what makes me think I don't know how he would have handled Vietnam. Now, do I think he would have intervened like what we did if he were still president? I don't know. Probably would have done so with the same way as we do, as strategic military strikes on certain areas. But I don't think we would have been full-fledged part of the Vietnam War like we were.
With Johnson.
Yeah. With Kennedy, I don't think it would have happened. I think he would have gone for specific cells of areas strategically, but I don't think he would have sent, troops in and been like, yep, we are a full-fledged participant of the Vietnam War, which, by the way, was a complete fucking waste of time.
Yes.
Why were we there? Kind of like with the Middle East. Why are we there?
Yeah. I mean, I could go on for days on that one. It's just, I don't see the point, in the Vietnam War. I didn't see a point in that. I thought, for the most part, and just how military-wise, we did not lose. We lost because of our government did not allow us to win.
Yeah, it's hubris, man.
You could go on and on for that, but almost 60,000, people died in that, and that's and countless people, I have family members that was in Vietnam, and they carry that for the rest of their life,
Oh, yeah.
And it was for what? We would take them out and give it back to them, and we go back a couple weeks later and get the same mountain again. For what?
So I said that war was so pointless, and I'm not, and I don't want that to be misconstrued. Anybody that might have heard that whenever I say like it's pointless that we're in the Middle East, I'm 100% supportive of military having to do that stuff. Like, I'm supportive of the fact that they did it. I think the family that I've had that have participated in the war for, Iraqi freedom and Desert Storm and everything that's been in between, I'm supportive of the fact that they went in and did what they needed to do. However, I think we ended up in the Middle East because Bush had to go in and finish what his daddy started.
Yeah.
I don't think it had anything. I think 9/11 was a catalyst to say he's probably going to do it anyways. But to what extent? Now, I do think that there needed to be retaliation. There needed to be like, you can't come into the country and make a mockery of us and then expect us to just sit there and be quiet. I 100% think that something had to be done. But the fact that when did that happen? 2001.
Yeah.
And we're still there 20 years later. You know what I mean? Like, we're still there. Like, there has been, for certain people, think of kids that have been born post us. We've been at war their entire life.
Yeah.
And in some capacity, not necessarily full-fledged war like we had been in the early or mid 2000s, early 2010s, stuff like that. But in some way, shape, or form, we have been at war for the entirety of some people's lives in our country, as well as the Middle East and stuff. Like, I don't know, man. It blows my mind to think about how could anybody justify the fact that, to me, at this point, it's like I've always said